All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to day one of the African Artificial Intelligence Masterclass AI Prompt Engineering course that we're offering over the next 2 days. Thank you for joining us. I'm pleased to inform you that we are with Dr. Denzel Chetty and the ADOF team, who are going to be running through the program today and tomorrow with you guys. If you had joined us yesterday...
Sorry about that. That's real sound issues we're having here tonight. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I hope you can all hear me now. Just let me know with a thumbs up if you can.
Yes, Richard.
So my name is Richard Wright. I'm with ADOVH, and we're going to introduce you today to the world of AI. So we've got quite a program to run through. But first, before we get started, I'm just going to hand over to Dr. Chetty to do the intro to welcome you to this platform. Thank you, Doctor.
Thanks very much, Richard and David, and our colleagues that are joining us online, and Natma as well from the Academic Development Open Virtual Hub. A warm welcome to each of our students that are joining us. I'm sure by now you are getting into the groove of UNISA, and especially for our new students that have joined UNISA for the first time in 2025, a warm welcome to each one of you. And we look forward to an exciting year ahead. As you engage with many of our activities. So for some of you who joined UNISA for the first time and don't know anything about the Academic Development Open Virtual Hub, I'm going to just take 2 or 3 minutes just to give you some idea of who we are. So we are a strategic unit in the university that is responsible for developing our students' digital competencies. And we've decided to do this in a very fun and innovative way as well. So we partner with industries such as Microsoft and another company called RGB Gaming and various others to bring you cutting-edge technology as well as cutting-edge competencies that prepares you not just for UNISA, and maybe I must stress this, also for the future workforce that you will be graduating and entering. So this is very important for us that you understand that these competencies really prepare you for a future post-qualification. So it means when you get out of the university with that qualification in your hand, you can rest assured that when you get into industry, you will have the competencies in terms of digital competencies needed to function in those spaces, right? So that's a good thing in terms of building your competencies. Now, what do we offer? So firstly, you'll see the little picture of our humanoid robot, the white little robot. Her name is Luwazi. She's the first humanoid robot procured at UNISA. And in the course of the year, you will hear a lot about Luwazi. So if you're ever in the region and we are ever in your region and you hear that we are bringing Luwazi, make sure you stop by to meet Luwazi. She's a fascinating robot with a built-in artificial intelligence, and you can have a full conversation with her and she will be able to converse with you on various topics. Now, what do we offer? We do training on basic skills for using my modules on my UNISA. We do basic digital literacy. We also offer a gamified MOOC, and the colleagues are going to tell you where you can access some of these courses. We also have for our female students a dedicated course called Her Tech, Igniting Women's Digital Future Series, Foundational Digital Skills. Now, why do we have a specific course dedicated to women? One is a large percentage, I think close to just about 80% or so of our students registered at UNISA are female students. Secondly, as we've been engaging in the past years, we found that our female students have selective problems that may not necessarily, they would not necessarily want to discuss in an open platform that are critical issues for them in terms of what it means for women to move beyond the cultural prejudices, the biasness of women in tech. And this is where we create that space for you. We also partner with some female CEOs and prominent voices in industry, and we bring them on board to actually encourage you to engage in this space. We really want to see the space growing, a lot of our female students entering the tech space and making a mark in it. As I mentioned earlier, we partner with Microsoft. We offer a basic skills in Microsoft 365 for learners. And this is a good one because you actually receive a Microsoft certificate of participation as well. So if you ever want to get a Microsoft certificate of participation in your CV, look at that course on the site that the colleagues will talk to you about. Then if you missed out over the past 2 days, we had just over close to 7,000 students completing our mobile learning masterclass for students in Codel. It was an excellent session. The colleagues facilitated excellently and the engagements was mind-blowing. So we really appreciate those that attended for the past 2 days as well for the mobile learning. Then you'll also hear from us as we get closer to your exams, we will prepare you for the examination. So we will prepare you as you get closer to your examinations around May, June, on what it means to have basic skills for online assessments. Many of you may have heard of UNISA's proctoring tools, and some of you might be frightened as what exactly is proctoring tools. You shouldn't worry too much about it, because as we get into the examination period, May, June, we will walk you through step by step what are the different proctoring tools and how you use it for the examinations. So you got the Invigilator app, the Iris, the Moodle proctoring tools. We will go through every single one of these proctoring tools to prepare you adequately enough for the competencies that you need for your online examinations. And then we will also cover some of the different types of online assessments to prep you up as well. So you can see that this is a carefully designed program. Is designed to take you through a journey, and that's what we intend to do. Take you through a journey as we develop your competency so that you can become effective online learners. Now, why are you here today? And I just want to quickly touch on this before we end back to Richard. So firstly, artificial intelligence, many of you may have heard of it, ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Copilot, etc. What's the fuss about? The fuss is, quite simply, these are tools that can really transform and revolutionize your learning experience. However, without the proper competencies, you will never be able to optimize the use of these tools. So we want to train you on how to optimize the use of these tools as effective online learners in an ethical way that allows you to integrate it as part of your studying, right? So there are various dynamics to artificial intelligence, and one of the elements that we will be dealing today is focused specifically on how it can enhance your learning skills as an UNISA open distance e-learning student. We want you to use these competencies. We want you to use these tools to make your life easier. But above all, our main goal for every single one of our programs that we design is to get you through your examination, get through your models, and pass at the end of the day, right? So that's our goal. We want you to pass, and whatever competencies we show you is simply to make your life easier as you transition through this journey and pass at the end of the day. So that said, welcome to this course on African artificial intelligence for CODEL learners, and I wish you all the best. And I know the colleagues that are with us today, David, Richard, and Natma, are well versed with this, and they are going to take you through a remarkable journey. So I'm hoping to see you on the other side of this at the close of tomorrow, where you will really reflect back and say, this was well worth the time spent. So thank you, Richard. Thank you, David. Thank you, Natma. Wish the colleagues, students all the best as well. So let's get going with the course. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Denzel. So students, as you can see for the program for day one, we've got quite a few topics to cover. Today, we're really going to lay the foundation for tomorrow when we get into prompt engineering in terms of AI. And so today we're going to be starting off with just a brief background. What is generative AI? How did it actually evolve to come to where it is, and how you might be using it in your education? And then also, very importantly, the responsible considerations when you use AI for academic purposes, and also how to evaluate AI-generated data, because this is very important, to maintain that academic integrity on your side. How do you actually use the data that you get from AI? And how do you also use AI without losing, for instance, critical thinking skills and your creativity to maintain that and rather grow through the use of it? So today we'll cover those topics, and then for tomorrow, that's what when we will jump into prompt engineering. How do you actually construct the effective prompt to get the correct information? And there's various ways of doing it. For instance, prompting it to the AI to take on a certain role. There's also various ways you can communicate with it within, even different languages. And then also various ways you can input information. So you can, for instance, upload documents, or you can also use voice narration to give it the context of what you need in terms of the reply. Now, just a quick note on how to participate in this session. So if you have two devices, or you've got a dual monitor setup, you can definitely watch on the one hand, follow along on this course on the other side. Even on your phone, if you're watching your phone, you can use your laptop to actually start with the course. But due to the high number of people on the site currently, the site might be a bit slow. So it's always perhaps then best to rather focus on what we're doing in the session, and then afterwards to go and complete all the various activities on the site. Now, first things first is you need to enroll in the site. So you need to access ADOVH. We will share the link shortly in the chat as well. But this course is really designed, for if you've got no technical experience. I already saw some of the, from our little survey. Some of you perhaps never heard of AI before, but we really try to make the course so that you can have an easy way into the world of AI, learn a lot of technology skills along the way as well. So it's very easy to navigate and participate in, so that we know when you finish with this course, you actually have all the required skills. So first things first, you will visit adovh.unisa.ac.za, and then from there you will click on the banner AI Prompt Engineering. So this will ask you the first time to sign in, and you also need to click on the enroll button if you're not enrolled yet. So a lot of you might think, enrollment, must I pay? Is it compulsory? No, everything that we do here is part of co-curricular activities in the universities where you gain these skills. But because this is a official co-curricular activity, by the end of the year, they will give you reports on all the co-curricular activities you participated in and completed. So just for a quick demo, let me just open up the browser over here. So on the main screen, home screen, you click on the banner. And remember, this is available at adovh.unisa.ac.za. This will open up the course. As I mentioned, the course might be a little bit slow today at the moment because due to the high number of people on the site, but it does eventually load. So just remember also, when you visit the site, make sure you're signed in. So at the top left, you can click on login, and you just log in with your MyLife email address and MyUnisa password. Now, you'll notice with this course, there's a lot of activities that you complete with, because remember, AI is a skill that you need to learn, and it's the tools that you need to use. So we really want you to have that hands-on experience when participating in this course. So also, engage the other students also on the course that's participating in the forums, so really enhance the learning journey through this course as well. But by the end of this, you will have a solid understanding of what is generative AI and also how to use it in academic setting. So the syllabus for this course is basically 3 main units. As we mentioned, the first one is generative AI in education. Next one is responsible AI use. All of you probably already did the ethics course that's now compulsory in UNISA. So you've got a good idea of what does ethics mean. But then finally, we're going to really delve into where you build those skills to become very good at prompt engineering. Now, if you're going to be doing this course, there is a few requirements. You need to obviously to have internet enabled device, because all of this basically all the activities do require you to access the various chat portals where you do need internet. There is one activity that uses Microsoft Edge browser, so it is optional to do the activity. So you can always still use Chrome, or if you prefer not to install Edge. But I just want to let you know there is one activity that specifically uses Microsoft Edge. And then obviously you need access to the discussion forums. That is where you will be pasting in your a lot of responses that you get, and also engage other students on how to perhaps improve your how you prompted the AI. And then lastly, you will need a Microsoft and or Google account. So the Google account is really optional. You already have a Microsoft account with your MyLife email. So you just sign in with your MyLife email and you can participate with all of these activities. Now, I do know a lot of us might be scared of what these robots suddenly can do. There is, for instance, is it going to take my job one day? Or is the job going to become redundant? But you must really think of AI. I like the term that they commonly use. It's not the AI that's going to be taking your job. It's the person that knows how to use AI. So that's why this is very new skills to learn. And this actually makes the opportunities open, or opens opportunities for everyone, because suddenly we all in the same boat where we have to learn these new skills. And it will obviously increase advancements at a rapid stage. They foresee, for instance, in the next 20 years, more advancements in mankind than we saw in the last 2,000 years. So that's how the rapid pace at first, how things are suddenly evolving. So when you work with AI, really embrace it, as a tool that you can use to optimize your skills. And that will really benefit you in your studies, in the workplace, and probably in your everyday life as well. So in the activities, there is the first, how can I say, encounter that you will have is with Luwazi. So I just will click here because I see there is people saying that it's loading very slow. Yes, there's probably a lot of people on the site currently, but this is the welcome page that you will be introduced to. You will notice we'll immediately always start almost with a translation as well. Especially for most of us, that's for who English is a second language. This really, shows you we can actually translate information pretty accurately, very quickly, so we can get a better understanding of what we are learning. Now, how to navigate this? Basically, all you need to do is follow the blue buttons. But you can also open up the left navigation to jump to a specific section very quickly as well. Now, the first activity is Ask Luwazi. So if we actually open up the, let me just get to that one. Right, there we go. So the first one is Luwazi. So you can actually access Luwazi from the main navigation, as I did here. That's loading a bit slow at the moment. But otherwise, in the first activity, Meet Luwazi, remember you can click these drop downs and you can actually ask it. So this one, first activity that you will do will be basically your first introduction to a model that's been designed for a specific task. So Luwazi is basically, as you saw earlier, our humanoid robot, but Luwazi also has an online AI personality that's been trained on, UNISA information, all the course information that's in this course, as well as, various things local to us within a South African context. So the first task you will have to do is just introduce yourself to Luwazi. So here you can just say, hello, my name is Richard, and I am here to learn about prompting. So you just do a small introduction, why you're here to Luwazi, and then you will record the response that the Luwazi actually gives you. The Luwazi, depending also on the load, so she actually runs directly from our servers. So usually if it's, a lot of people, it might take a few seconds, but usually it's very, very quick. You'll see the first response here that Luwazi gave me. Hello, Richard, it's great to have you here. Learning about prompting, especially in the context of AI, is an exciting journey. So basically, the first activity, you'll just use this prompt that was given from Luwazi, and then you can post it to the replies. Now, remember always to click on the reply button of the main conversation. So underneath this button, there is a reply button, but you can also click on this post reply button, big blue button, basically in the end. So as I said, just follow the big blue buttons and you will easily navigate through the course. Okay, so then you just post it there. I think it will load a bit slow now, so we'll have a look at it later when the site is back up. Now, very importantly, there is a pre-course assessment that needs to be done. So if you look at the site, we go here. So you'll notice here under getting started, there's a pre-course assessment survey. So this is just one attempt, and this is really to just gain your understanding before you actually go through the content. Because in the end, you'll actually do exactly the same assessment, and then suddenly you'll see where you actually gain new knowledge, new skills. So you use this, even though your first one might be a low mark, it's there to compare it to the one that you will do at the end of the course. So don't worry about getting a low score in this one. But you will need to complete this pre-course assessment before Unit 1 will unlock for you. So just remember, when you start with the course, there will be a little lock on Unit 1, but first just complete the pre-course assessment, and then you'll easily navigate through the course. So that brings us to what is generative AI and its use in education. So earlier we had that little poll that went around, a little survey. So I'm just going to open it up to see what you actually been using, already. So we can see the majority of you uses WhatsApp Meta. So yes, that's very easily accessible through WhatsApp directly. See, there's quite a few that said they've never even used AI before. So welcome here. You're going to be mind blown with what you can do with AI. And then I see there's quite a few that uses OpenAI ChatGPT. It's still one of the strongest models. And then I see also quite a few using the Google Gemini. Gemini is really increasing capabilities in the last month or two. So that's also a very good one to use. And then also quite a few using Microsoft Copilot. Now, interesting to note, Microsoft Copilot actually runs on OpenAI ChatGPT. So when you actually, obviously they build up a lot of, tools on top of it. But when you're using it, the underlying model actually comes from the latest model of OpenAI ChatGPT. So if you don't have a subscription, for instance, for OpenAI ChatGPT, and you run out of your, prompts that you can make, just go over to Microsoft Copilot because it uses the same model in the back end. And the secret is actually Microsoft Copilot generally uses the newer one that you get for free with OpenAI as well. So yes, I can see a lot of you are already using AI. So hopefully you will learn to, especially when we get to the more advanced skills, some new ways of using it. So the first unit is what is generative AI and its use in education. So yeah, we really want to have just a background of how did we actually come to this point that we now have this tool, and especially just how it works. What is perhaps some of the terms you will hear when people speak about AI? So by the end of this, you should be able to define generative AI and its features, explain how it works, identify popular generative AI tools. But as we saw just now, you know quite a lot of them already. Understand the benefits and limitations in education, and apply generative AI tools to enhance learning. So that's very where we want to get you, is to effectively use these tools to improve your learning journey. Now, just some key concepts that we want to look at, for instance, are these ones that you will hear quite a lot in local media, or even when you read about, large language models and AI. Now, the first one is machine learning. Now, machine learning is basically a branch under statistics, and the AI as we know it currently with the neural networks is actually a branch underneath machine learning. So machine learning has been with us for quite some time. If you ever used a text-to-speech before, or you used Siri on your phone to speak to it, that all uses machine learning, where they use a large amount of information to train a, how can I say, algorithm onto it. And that algorithm then basically does the translations, but it's limited to what it's been trained to do. The next one is generative AI. So generative AI is a type of AI that creates new content like text, images, music, or videos. So there's, as you can see, this is basically the creator within the toolset. Generative AI can produce original material based on what it has learned from large data sets. Now, this is very important. We all come from where you Google something, you get some information. Now, that information is basically something that somebody typed. But now with generative AI, it actually creates new content. So it depends on how you prompt it, on the quality of the content that you're actually going to get. And this makes it so unique. In academia, there's still big discussions around should you actually reference that you used a certain, how can I say, large language model, or is that content because the way you prompted it, that's what you got out. So actually that's unique work that you've done, where it's just actually a tool that you use to produce more information. So that is generative AI. Think of it as the creator. And then we've got neural networks. Now, neural networks, you might think of your mind already, and that's basically where it stems from, is they took how the neurons in your brain passes information. They created a formula around it, and basically that formed the basic structure on which they built to create these new neural networks where they train these models on. So a neural network is how you train a generative AI or AI type of tool. Now, deep learning is a little bit more advanced machine learning. And basically what it does is process a large amount of data. The deep learning enables AI to understand complex patterns, making it possible to generate text, images, and other content. So how you put this together, it's because I know these terms might be a little bit technical, is machine learning is the overall branch. Underneath machine learning, you get deep learning. Part of deep learning is neural networks, and that produces generative AI. Now, transformer models, that's why when we, talk about LLMs and that type of thing, it's a transformer model. This is basically the model that provided us with the modern AI that we know is so smart. Before that, they were actually not that smart. It wasn't that couldn't even understand what the data is that you get out of it. But when they actually introduced the transformer models onto these neural networks, that made it the smart AIs that we know today. But then you get some other types of models as well. For instance, the generative adversarial networks, GANs. These ones are good at creating images and music. And then you also get the large language models. These ones are the ones that we use when we prompt it. So many of these are now combined. So you can actually prompt it for an image or a text, but underneath it actually uses different technologies to produce it. The one is the GANs, and the text-based is the LLMs. Now, before you run away with all that, how can I say, the technical side of it, so those are just the terms that you might come across when using with AI. So it's good to just have an understanding how they all link together to get to where we are. Now, AI with machine learning has actually been with us quite a while. It was first, how can I say, pioneered in 1950s, where they had basic models. In the 1980s to 90s, it was very rule-based, so it still followed a set of rules, how it actually derives information. And then in 2000, machine learning really advanced with the advancement of computer power. You still, for instance, if you want to teach a large language model now, I think Elon Musk has a new server with 5 million graphics cards in there to actually train a model. So you need a large amount of computing power to actually generate and teach these AI models. Now, in 2010s, this is when the generative AI emerged, and it actually started with Google. And one of the, one of the first breakthroughs that they made was when the AI model has beaten a human in the game of Go. I'm just going to open up this quickly. So we do link in the course to this article as well. So Go is almost like chess, but just a lot more advanced. So here you've got almost more than 1 million types of moves that you can actually do on the board. And especially in Asian countries, this is a very big sport where kids basically learn this from school because I believe it helps with their thinking and strategizing. And to become a master in this game, it takes years and years of practice. Now, what's interesting about the AI model that Google introduced, they trained it on a large amount of data, of previous gameplays, but then they also started making it do its own game. So it started playing it against itself 1 million times over. And if you actually look at the video that's available on here as well, when it played for the first time against the world's top player, they actually thought, wait, this thing doesn't know what it's doing, because it actually started doing different techniques that's never been seen before. And it actually ended up winning the game in that instance. So this actually, with the use of AI, a very early thing came out was through AI, we can actually shift our thinking, actually discover new ways of approaching things that we, with our upbringing, the way we are thinking is structured, we probably wouldn't have gotten to, quite a lot of time. So this really opens up the, new frontiers of approaching new topics. So one of the activities that we have in here as well is the Microsoft Immersive Reader. So I'm quickly going to show it to you. This really shows you what was capable already with machine learning. Now, let me just quickly get this activity open here. So this activity, if you have not used Microsoft Immersive Reader, it makes it a lot easier to read content online, and it can actually also read back the content to you. So this is the activity where you will require Microsoft Edge if you want to do this activity. But also note this is also optional activity that you can do. But this really can help you with your studies as well in going through large amount of information. So all you need to do with this one, you'll click on the link. It will open up the University of South Africa Wikipedia page. You can click on settings, more settings, and then read out loud. So this will open up this read out loud page. Let me just quickly pause it. Okay. So what this can do is can actually read out loud these articles for you.
Talk. Read. Edit.
Don't want to stop there. Just read those sections.
University of South Africa. Article. Talk. Read. Appearance. Hide. Text.
Okay, so it is a bit, let me just quickly open it up here. There we go. This is a bit of a better way of reading this.
University of South Africa. Contents. Appearance. University of South Africa. Former names: University of the Cape of Good Hope. Type:
So as you
public
can
distance.
see from this, you've got voice options. We've got actually the African option. So it sounds very natural. So you might think, oh, this is AI. It was, was created by, also these neural networks. But this is actually more example of what we would say is machine learning. So what they did was they take words and people reading it, and with a vast amount of information, they actually trained it to actually, generate these type of voice texts. And this is how, example of machine learning that was the pre-stage to the AI that we have today. So if you use Siri, all of these ones in the past, they were all came from machine learning that works on algorithms. But now we actually have evolved to the generative AI, where it can actually start training itself as well. So do this activity, you can really benefit with your studies as well with Immersive Reader. As you can see, this was the Wikipedia page. Now it's open up and we can actually just select sections on here, read it out loud. So we can,
as a comprehensive university, UNISA offers.
So when you get tired of, reading all your materials, your study material, use this tool that's built into Microsoft Edge. And you can see here it's very natural sounding and to consume a lot of information very quickly. So this brings us to what is generative AI. And this is the one that we mainly focus on, as this is what you will use to create new information. Now, generative AI is AI that can create text, images, and music. It can produce original content not seen before. Learns patterns from vast amounts of data. So we're going to delve into what all of this means a little bit, but really this is the tools that we use now in the modern day. So how does generative AI work? It uses neural networks, the term we heard before, and deep learning to go through vast amounts of information. Now, if we talk about big amounts of information, it's basically all the information that you could get from the internet. So all the Wikipedia articles, things you did in Facebook, all blogs, all of that, encyclopedias, all of that is basically fed into to train these models. Now, types include GANs and transformers. We'll have examples of them shortly. And through the analysis of these data, it starts mimicking patterns. That's why when it produces something, it's something unique. It basically goes on a rating what naturally follows what has been put in before that. That's why your prompting is also so important, because that directly influences the start of the conversation that you have with the AI. Now, how can you use these tools within education? So you can actually start tailoring, how you actually go through your content. You can personalize your learning. If you have a topic that sounds very advanced, perhaps in your study guides, what you can actually do is tell it, explain it to me like a 15, like I'm 15-year-old, or just finished matric. So it will just use simpler terms to explain the same topic. What I usually do is I will ask it, explain this to me like I'm a 6-year-old. Because then it will explain it to you in very, very visual terms. Imagine this an object, and this object is doing something. So then you go back and say, okay, now explain it to me like a 15-year-old. And then it will obviously use more language-based, to explain the topic. So now if you've already got this image in your head, you build on top of that, they're more text-based, and then you go, okay, explain it to me now on university level. Then you get the academic language on top of that. So this will give you a solid foundation of learning any topics, because you've got a visual representation on which you build the information. Now, content creation, it can definitely generate images, text to aid your understanding, and really it can be a back and forth conversation that you have. So really treat this AIs as a tutor where you have, I don't understand this topic, or I don't understand this part of the topic, and then it will explain that for you in more detail. And what's very nice about it, it's instant feedback. So instead of going asking, about topics or searching over the internet, if somebody asked the same thing previously, you just ask it and it gives you instant feedback. So, it just makes that learning process a lot quicker than in the past. We had to go search up information, or you can't just ask a book a question and it will give you an instant reply. You have to go search through it. Now, just a few notes. We will get into this especially when we get into Unit 3 tomorrow. AI may produce inaccurate or biased content. So remember, it was trained on a lot of content that was available, and most of that content that's available, unfortunately, comes from, Asia, it comes from Europe and America. So those views are more prominent than in the AI's views. That generally doesn't reflect with our views that we have in South Africa. So that's why we're also running a different project, Advancing African Digital Humanities, where we actually want to digitize information so the future models are also trained on our information. Now, when you use this, always cross-check with reliable sources. So remember, if it gives you a fact, still go and see if that fact is still relevant. Now, I want to bring in here as well. For instance, if you ask ChatGPT, so what date has it been trained on? So that generally it will give you now a date, I think, in March 2024. So basically, the AI model doesn't know anything after that. It has new tools where it can go search the internet and all of that, but it's still not part of its knowledge that it has inherently. So always know the information that it gives you will be out of date because it takes months to train these models, and there is a cutoff to obviously then on the data that was put into it on which it was trained. And always use critical thinking to evaluate the information. That is still, that makes us better than AI. We can really critically think around the information and, also taking a lot more context around us to really make sure that this information is correct. So this will be covered a little bit more tomorrow when we cover within the prompt engineering section. Now, as we mentioned, there's quite a lot of different types of generative AI tools. The one we probably all know the best is the text generators. This is the one you use on WhatsApp from Meta, the ChatGPT, the Google Geminis, and also the Copilot. But then we actually get another one. So it started with Midjourney and DALL-E. It's the image generators. So these are actually different models, but the text models these days use them as well to create images. So these ones actually where you can create works of art, you can do photorealistic images, and you can use it really to spice up your essays with images that really support your narrative. And then we get different ones as well, such as music generators. One that you are introduced to in the course is Suno. And also now they're working on ones that basically uses the image generators where it actually follows one image after another. And then what do you get? You get a movie. So now they're starting to push it into that direction. So one of these days, we'll just give it make me a movie tonight for about a certain topic. Say you're doing mathematics. So you'll ask it, make me a movie about a thriller movie about algebra, and it will actually make you a whole premiere movie just for you to watch. So that is the future, and it's coming, they say, this year. At the moment, the movies that it produces is not that good, so we'll see where that goes. But for instance, with music, you can already copy a section of your study guide, put it in there and say, make me a song about this content. And then you actually can sing along to while you're learning your content as well. Now, one thing I do want you to note as well is to know the differences between different AI models. Each model has its strengths and limitations. So that's why ChatGPT is one of still the strongest ones, is because they were first. They had more information to train on. After they released their first model, everybody realized that data is very valuable actually, and they closed down the data that others had to train on. But always know what the limitations are. The one, as we mentioned already, when was its training date? What information has it actually been trained on? If you're going to use a general one, you might not always get the best medical advice, so you'll look for one that's been specifically trained to give medical advice. So just note, these models are just only as strong as the information they've been trained on. So always choose the right tool for your needs. Make sure when you choose a model, it's been actually trained onto that information that you want to use it for. So by just understanding how these models work in the back end, you'll actually get more use out of it. And that's why we also encourage you to explore different ones. Don't just use Gemini and say, I'm now a Google Gemini fan. Use all of them, put in the same prompt, see which one gives you the best result. And you can actually use the two models then to battle it out as well, to refine the content. So don't be limited to just one model. Now, in the course, you will be creating a song. Let me quickly just demo that for you as well. Get it here. This is the first activity, second one, okay, third one. So this is a very fun activity. I hope you will also enjoy it. Is where you use the service Suno to create an AI song. So we do give you an example as well here. So for instance, for example, a joyful song about exploring the landscapes of South Africa in the genre of Kwaito in the language of Tsonga. So very interestingly, this is actually very good in our South African languages. So you don't be just always, let it get stuck at just English. Use your own home language to actually make you a song. So for instance, if you take this example over here, you will go to Suno. Just note here, you will have to sign in with your Google account. Your My Life account will not work. So just any personal account that you have, it doesn't have any cost to it as well while you're testing it. But this really gives you what are the possibilities of what can be created with these tools. And I can see there's already quite a lot that created songs, and they are already blown away with what they can do with this. So I'm just going to play you the example one that's been created with this specific song. So I'm just going to quickly find a link over here. Okay, let me put that one now. So with this song, with that prompt that we gave it, so the one with the joyful song of South Africa with a Kwaito style of music, this is actually what it produced.
Loko ndzi lahlekile hlandzeni naswona ndzi famba tin'hweti ta vona yi swi hlala yi tsakile yi ta marha tikoko ti vulavula tintswalo ti kula ku hluka hinkwako na ku va kona titimela ti famba laha ku nga na mali.
So that song was created with this prompt that we gave here. But remember, when you do this, do your own prompt. And even if you're going to do the same prompt, you'll get a different song as well. Now, just note, the person that sings there doesn't exist. The guy that plays the jazz, all of that does not exist. This is actually basically a unique song. Now, under Suno's licensing, unfortunately, I can't go sell that song unless you partner with them. But that is actually a unique song created. So go explore this tool, and just imagine putting in your study guides as well in there, and let it make you a song to remember those steps that you need to take to learn something. So yes, after that, you can post in your link here. You can also explore what the others have done. This is really, unfortunately, our creative people will probably get a knock in the future. They will have to be very good to make it these days if this can be done just by simple prompts. And I'll ask the guys, that speaks Tonga to let us know in the chat how accurate it was, how accurate the words, the meaning of it was, because that's not one of my strong languages. Now, as we know, there's quite a few different ones, generative AI models that can be used. In this course, you will be introduced to Gemini by Google, Microsoft Copilot, and then also Luwazi, the one that we have with UNISA. So just to let you know, again, Luwazi also runs in the backend on ChatGPT, where we've added additional information about the university, just as Microsoft did with Copilot as well. Now, from the past experiences, students actually said that Microsoft Copilot is generally the better one, above Google. But with their new updates, we don't know exactly where it is at the moment, so it might actually have improved quite a lot as well. Now, when you use these AI models, there's a few things to note. Is the licensing. So if you use, for instance, ChatGPT, I mean, they've brought out a new subscription that's 3,600 Rand a month. And then a regular one is almost, I think, 400 Rand or something. So some of them are very expensive if you want to get access to them. And remember, they also have licensing restrictions on how you might be able to use that content. For instance, Suno will say, fine, you can create as many songs as you want, but if you want to make money from that song that you created, then obviously they will want a share of that as well. And then also so always read just the licensing info of the tools that you use, how you may actually use that information. When it comes to Copilot, ChatGPT, and Google, generally they say that content is your own. You may use it as you want because you created it. But there are some that's more dedicated tools. So for instance, biology or on teaching, they might actually say you need to reference them that you use their tools. Now, I'm going to show you a very interesting one versus log in versus log out with your Microsoft 365 accounts that you have with UNISA, and just the differences that you get as well within different scenarios. So, and also, tip for the future is, every time you get a reply, you get unique outputs. So it's a good idea to sometimes save the prompt and the output, because you get a very good output. Then you'll want to know in the future, what was that prompt that you used? How did you phrase that question? So you can actually get a similar quality output from that. Now, what I'm going to show you here quickly is some examples. I see I have to be very quickly. I'm going over my time a bit. So we basically in the activity, just see here quickly. Here we go. Explore Google Gemini and Microsoft Copilot. Now, if you open up Copilot on here and you're signed in with your My Life email, it will actually ask you, do you want to use the work Copilot? So you can see I'm signed in, so I'll have to select that one. That will redirect me to the portal. Once I log in here, it will give me this Copilot over here. And as you can see, I can already start a chat here. I can even attach a file, all of that. Now, the second one, if you are logged in, I'm going to open up this window. Now, notice here, I'm logged in with an Outlook account. So this is a personal account. If you log in, it looks different. Now, this is the one that's open to the public. And here, you can even insert, talk to Copilot. So all of these tools are, it's got a little bit more newer things that's not been released yet. Now, the reason for why it's not available within the My Life tenant yet is of security. So it's still going through testing. But a big difference as well is everything I do here on the public one, they actually use in the future to train the model on further. So I won't generally put in personal information or confidential information in this one. Well, if you use the one that's within the university, this one is actually, they don't train it. The data is protected, so they don't, train it on for new models. So all your information is very secure. But the free models that you are introduced to is Copilot. And then you also have, let me just open up the other one here quickly, Google Gemini. So the task that you need to do with this one is very easy. You ask it to write you a story. So ask it to write a short story on traveling through South Africa on a bicycle. So yes, so just like that, I can ask it to write me a quick story, and it will start generating. Now I'm actually going to use this one. I'll ask Gemini as well to write me a story. And then we can use the same one within the university context as well to write me a story. So if I just zoom in here a bit, journey through South Africa on 2 wheels in the early morning lights. It goes through the Drakensberg. Yeah, you backpack to a deep breath. The air was crisp but filled with scents of African bush. And then we go from Cape Town and we go to Drakensberg. So a very interesting story about Alex traveling through with his bicycle. So let's see what the others produced. So if I go back here, the rusted gears wind processed as they crested the hill, the vast Karoo, stretching out before me like a wrinkled portrait canvas. So this one is a little bit more arty, I would say. So here we go for also Cape Town, the Garden Route. We go to Joburg. Yeah, so here's quite a long story here. And then we've got another one here. So this is one. Oh, this one actually knows my name. Richard has always yearned for an adventure to take him to the beaten paths. Yeah, so we'll see. I'll also travel from Cape Town through the Garden Route with my bicycle. So as you can see, same prompt, 3 different AIs, 3 different stories. All of them more or less travels through South Africa, the cities, as we told it, but the storyline is completely different. Now I want to, for instance, perhaps create a image representing the story. So I can just ask it, create an image representing the story. Let's see what we get if we add that. Just have to get my spelling correct. Representing the story, but I'm sure it's smart enough to figure out what I mean. So let's see what we can produce on these sides. So this one, where did my Copilot now go? My story disappeared here. So let's get it again. I'm going to open it in another window. Okay, so here you can see it actually produced this image. Now this looks almost like a photo, but this is a unique picture that I actually have the copyright of now. So this was actually all fake. This does not exist. This is basically what it created from that story. Here's another one. This one's got a lot of elephants in it. So also a lot of friends cycling with you through the Drakensberg, it looks like. And then the other one, I don't know. Oh, yes. Okay, this one is missed the story. I don't know why it refreshed the page. Oh, here we go. This is the one. So we actually want our picture. So as you can see, 3 different models, 3 very different outputs that you get. And that's just by using that, very simple prompt that we did. So now you can imagine when you start structuring your prompts, with a certain role, give it enough context, you get a lot better information out of it. But everything that it creates is very, very unique. This is actually a very nice picture that I created over here. So, when you want the artwork for your home one day, you just prompt it, you get some nice pictures, you print them, and there you go. No need to pay a lot for, like I say, artists to paint for you. So that's basically unit 1. This was just a introduction to what is generative AI. And this really gives you the core skills that you need when we go now into the more advanced topics of prompt engineering. So the next one is how to use this AI responsibly in education. So you might know already plagiarism might be a concern. You might be picked up by the AI trackers that they use, that you've actually used the AI to just provided AI content. So it's very important to understand the potential risks, not only just for an academic integrity sense, but also to your learning journey. You want to actually build up your skills, your knowledge. You don't want everything just handed over to an AI. So you really want to build on those critical thinking skills. So in this section, we'll definitely focus on, what considerations should we take when using AI academically? How can AI tools impact academic integrity and privacy? What are the potential biases and limitations of AI-generated data? Remember, that's still a very big concern, especially for us here in South Africa as well. And how can you use AI responsibly without, over-reliance? Over-reliance is a very big term. That's when you actually stop thinking and it just starts doing everything for you. How do you evaluate the credibility of AI-generated content? Very important in academic sense where you have to reference information. So some key concepts here, academic integrity that you probably know already. If you did the UNISA course, data privacy, that is the data that, as we mentioned, they might use your data to train on the next models. So you need to know what are the privacy concerns around it. We'll dive into what bias is in AI, how it actually comes to impact what it gives us, and also then the critical thinking skills that you need to maintain to when you use these type of tools. Critical thinking is really the way you analyze information, and you don't want to lose that skill. And then what is responsible AI use? We'll delve into those topics. And then, what is dependence on technology? We really don't want to get to a point where you stop thinking and the AI just does everything for you. That's when you lose your creativity and all of that. So we don't want to get to a point of dependence on technology. And it will just have a quick look at, AI tools, terms and conditions, and then some of the long-term implications that the use of AI can have on academics. What if everybody just starts handing in AI-generated theses and things like that? That's our research. What will that actually mean to the academic community as a whole? It will basically almost collapse it. So that's where we still want to build somewhere the new professors in the future to take us even further into the future of just getting stuck with current AI models. So for this section, I'm going to hand over to Nafma to just quickly take you through these big terms that you need to know when you use AI in education. Thanks, Nafma.
Thanks so much, Richard. Give me a second. I'm Natma from the Academic Development Open Virtual Hub. And I always say this, more importantly, I am a student. So I know exactly how you feel when you're interacting with artificial intelligence, and there's a lot of fears that goes along with it. And Richard showed us some awesome ways to use these AI tools and really get creative and ensure that it remains supportive or supportive tool. One that I really liked that Richard referenced was using the AI tool to generate a song and then learning that song that's based on your content in your examinations, for example. And in that case, you will really reinforce that learning. But coming to this aspect of it, we need to now identify how do we ensure that AI doesn't go over a supportive role and lead to a tool essentially that we're completely dependent on. So the first thing that we use is we use questions. We always say there's no such thing as a bad question. And when it comes to artificial intelligence, you know that when it comes to asking artificial intelligence, almost always you're going to get a really positive response from artificial intelligence. It's never going to tell you something like, I don't know the answer. There might be some ethical questions that it can't respond to, but it will never be quite mean or something strange like that. We're going to also speak about the limitations of AI usage. So how do you use AI responsibly, and how do you regulate your time that you spend on AI so it doesn't lead to dependence in the long run? And lastly, we're going to reflect on learning, right? How do you learn with AI, but also how do you prevent AI from stopping you from actually learning and developing your critical thinking skills, like Richard mentioned, and also your ability to then gain knowledge and memorize that information and then reflect on that information. So let's look at the first one. Let's look at asking questions, right? So follow-up questions. Usually when we have our first question that we prompt AI with, we have sometimes a broad question. If we're really into prompting, we know that we have to be really specific and there's key aspects we're going to include. But when we get our first response, something that a lot of people do is they take that response, they read the first two sentences and they think that sounds professional, that sounds good, it should be good, and they copy it and they paste it and they consider that to be the end of the story. Now that's a huge ethical concern because you're violating copyright on the one hand and plagiarism aspects, but you're also learning nothing and you haven't validated whether anything in that information is actually true. So what you can do is you can actually probe the AI. If it gives you an answer, ask it some more questions. Ask it something like, can you tell me a different perspective? You might ask it something about a historical event, a certain event that happened in South Africa. It might give you a response, and once you look at it, you might think, well, that might have been some people's perspective, but not everyone's perspective. And ask AI to give you maybe 3 or 4 different viewpoints and become even more specific, indicate which type of viewpoints you want, whether you want it to be positive, negative, from a specific group, what do you want it to actually give to you? And then you can also do a comparison so you can see how there are different viewpoints on one specific topic. Also look at, for example, I'm going to read the question that's here. What were the impacts of this event in different regions? So sometimes we'll have a question like, let's take something very strange. Let's take, for example, World War II, for example, and we ask, what's the impact of World War II on one region of the world? And it will tell us it was really, really terrible. And in another region, it will tell us, yes, it was terrible, but it had these different impacts. And these different impacts are still impacting the world today. Maybe in a different region it will have different negative impacts, but you'll be able to see that one historical event has a range of effects on the world, and you'll also be able to see how they linked. And in that way, you're actually building your knowledge around one simple question, and you're having a conversation with artificial intelligence. The second thing we're going to look at is limiting our AI use. Now, we know already that when it comes to habit formation, the more time you spend doing anything, the quicker it becomes a habit. Now that goes for good things and for bad things. So for example, if you're using TikTok and you maybe just scrolling through it, when you use it for a couple of minutes, you might be okay. But slowly, if you increase your use and you increase your use, all of a sudden you'll see that you spent maybe 2 or 3 hours on it, and then you don't have time to essentially write an essay, or you don't have time to even spend time with your friends or your family or whatever it has to be. So when it comes to artificial intelligence, be aware of the time that you are dedicating to it. So for example, indicate that this is the amount of time I will use artificial intelligence for a specific project, but also limit how you will use that artificial intelligence for your project. So what do I mean by that? You might say, okay, this artificial intelligence is going to be used to generate certain ideas. And once I have the ideas, I'm going to leave artificial intelligence. I'm only going to use it maybe for the first 10 or 15 minutes of my assignment generation. And after that, I'm going to start building upon these ideas. I'm going to start creating more ideas, and I'm going to start adding my own perspectives. Even look at the ideas it's generated and think, what ideas are not generated? And all of a sudden you'll see that AI maybe was the beginning point, but at the end you have actually ensure that you've created your own work, which is original. And as you go into it, you're going to increase your understanding. And you might even take your own original ideas and now feed it back to artificial intelligence and ask it for some more ideas. And you will really build up a really solid body of work. Throughout the process, also remember that when it comes to generating these ideas, you have your generation of ideas, but when it comes to writing the information, you need to be concerned, okay, what are the ethical implications? What plagiarism regulations could I be breaking? How do I essentially reference everything so that I don't cross those boundaries? And that's where you'll see that maybe artificial intelligence shouldn't be writing your entire essay, but you should just use it for certain aspects of it. Something I even do is sometimes I'm looking for a specific word in my essays and I can't think of a synonym that goes with it, and I'll just pop it into ChatGPT and I'll ask it, please give me 10 synonyms for this word, and then I'll be able to rewrite something with new words into it and a new perspective. Moving on, we're reflecting on learning, right? And this comes back to what I said before. Whenever AI generates information, think about what they've generated. Ask yourself, okay, what is this artificial intelligence information telling me? Where's it coming from? How can I use it? Is it original? When you're prompting it, indicate to it, okay, please provide it from these sources or credible sources. But in reality, even when it provides you information and it even provides you the source next to it, you have that responsibility to double check. And believe me, I've actually had the experience where I said, please bring information from this specific source. And when I read it, it really didn't correspond. So you have that responsibility when you're using artificial intelligence to reflect on what you are actually gaining from it, if it's actual factual and reliable information, and if you can actually use it in the work that you are working on. Remember, at an academic institution, at a university, whatever work you submit, it's recorded against your academic profile. You don't want to take that risk. You have to be responsible. And more importantly, you don't want to be learning incorrect information from artificial intelligence. So I think if we can imagine a world, if we all just believed everything that was generated and the information was incorrect, we would not be progressing, we won't be learning anything. And then if we look at the future generations, it could be catastrophic. So always reflect on what you are learning from the generated information and also what you're not learning. Okay, so let's discuss, we're going to go into a little activity. It's very short. If you can maybe just pop your answers into the chat before we look at the small case study. Think about a situation when you feel it is inappropriate to use AI generated content. So we're going to discuss when it's appropriate, but think of the time, if you just take a few seconds, when you think it is inappropriate to use AI generated content. Okay, I'm just going to give you guys a few more seconds. I don't know if there are answers being generated, but I'm going to move into it, and just please continue to give those
Uh,
responses. Yeah,
Now we've got a few here when writing exams, research projects, question mark, completing assignments. So that's
Thank you so much, Richard. So, Richard, that's already a lot of good news because that shows that there's quite a lot of awareness and there's also a lot of concern about those contexts where it could be really, really tricky to use artificial intelligence. Examinations is one. I really don't recommend it. I think Richard will also highlight that's really not a good idea. But now let's take a look at how we can use it responsibly, because on the one side, we know a lot of people are telling us, don't use AI. You're going to be flagged for plagiarism. This is going to happen to you. That is going to happen to you. And that makes us feel like, how do we engage with this new technology and not get left behind, but not also jeopardize our futures? So we've got a little bit of a diagram, but first I'm going to go through a little bit of a case study, right? So you can see the case study, but I'm going to summarize it. We have Tabo, and she's a journalist in South Africa. Now, we know that when it comes to journalists, and I don't know if we have any journalists here, but when it comes to journalism, you basically reporting and your information is shared with a large audience. That audience most of the time is not cross-referencing your information, especially if you published in a well-known, let's say, a newspaper, web page, etc. So you're responsible for that information that you put out. And again, your professional career is at stake. So we're looking at Letabo's situation, and in this situation, she faces the challenge of quickly publishing accurate information to inform the public and promote accountability. So we can imagine that she's in a very fast-paced environment. We know that if we just look at social media, every second there's a new news story that's being broken, but we also know that a lot of that is fake news, right? But she's a journalist, so she's got to have integrity in the situation. So Letabo in the situation is considering using ChatGPT to draft parts of her report, right? And she wants to incorporate that into her investigations and into social media insight. However, there's the complexity of the local dialects and the sensitivity of the topic is going to present additional challenges. So in this situation, she now has to ask herself, does she use artificial intelligence? Is it going to be a good idea? Is it going to be a good idea to use ChatGPT to draft this report? And the key word we see here is draft this report. So I want you to imagine that you are in a similar situation like her, where you have a time constraint and you're considering using ChatGPT. And how do you make that decision to either use it or to not use it? So let's go through the process that she went through and that we can go through. So we usually always start off with asking ourselves this question. It seems easy, but it's actually a very difficult question. And the question is, does it matter if the output is true? So if you're going to be asking ChatGPT, and if it doesn't matter that the information is true or not true, then of course it's safe to use ChatGPT because it's not going to have an impact. However, if that is of vital importance, and I think if we look at her situation, it does matter if the output is true, right? It's linked to a very urgent matter. It's linked to also our public issues. So when she asks herself this question, she realizes, okay, yes, it does matter that this is true. For ourselves in our studies, if we ask ourselves the question, okay, we've got to draft let's say a report for an assignment. We ask ourselves the question, does it matter if the literature we're going to use is true? And in most of the cases, our answer is going to be yes. We do need output, or we do need literature that is reflective of reality, or it is based on sound data. So after we answer this question, if our answer is yes, this does not automatically mean you don't use ChatGPT. It really doesn't mean that. It just means you now have to go through some more questions in order to ensure you are ethically using it. So the second question you ask yourself is, do you have the expertise to verify that output is accurate, right? So if ChatGPT generates information, do you have the knowledge? Do you have the expertise? Do you have experience in that field to identify this is correct, this is incorrect? So Letabo, for example, as a journalist, she will look at the information, and as a journalist, she'll be able to say, that's a valid source, that's an invalid source, that source information doesn't even have a source, that's an outdated source that the information was gained from. So if she can say, yes, I do have those expertise, I have learned how to assess whether the output is true or not true, then she'll move on and she'll go into yes. But if she doesn't have those skills, if she can really not tell whether or not the output has a high degree of accuracy and a high degree of validity and reliability, then she has to move on and say it's unsafe to use ChatGPT. Now, that a lot of us might feel disappointed because that means we might feel like there's much more work we're going to do. But if we do take inaccurate, or if we get inaccurate information and we use that inaccurate information, we're going to have a bigger problem at the end of the day. So it would then be better for us to say this is not a good option. We have to put it at the aside, and we have to go the alternative route. In the case where you do have the skills, and remember these skills are going to be specific to the research or the reason why you're using the artificial intelligence, you then have to ask yourself the next question. And the question is whether you are willing to take full responsibility for any missed inaccuracies. Now, this is very, very serious. This is legal responsibilities. As a journalist, she could be sued. She could be asked to publish a retraction. She could be really taken to court for something that she's done incorrectly. There's also moral and ethical implications. We see that in this situation, there's complexities of local dialects. If she misrepresents that in her findings, that can have a very negative impact on a specific local community, for example. And that negative impact, she has to be prepared to say she will take responsibility for it. It will be on her shoulders. And that is a very heavy burden to carry with you, especially if you are a student, you're at the beginning of your career, you don't want to tarnish your reputation by taking that risk. So only in a situation where you can say, I'll take legal accountability for any missed inaccuracies or something that's incorrect. I will take moral responsibility. I'm prepared to put my name on this and say that it is true. Unless you are able to do that, you should probably go no and say this is unsafe to use ChatGPT. If you can say yes, if you feel that, you know what, this information that has been generated, I can see that it is valid, it is reliable, I can take responsibility for it because I believe that the probability of an inaccuracy is really, really low, then it becomes possible to use ChatGPT. But remember, the word is possible. We're not saying it's safe, we're saying it's possible, because even then you need to make sure you've verified every output, you've verified every word, you've ensured everything in that specific document can be traced back, and it is as valid and reliable as possible. And you'll notice I'm using the same words over and over: reliable, valid, and accurate, because those are things you need to check when you're using information from ChatGPT or any other source, AI source. Okay, so we see in her situation, if we can maybe just take a second, in her specific situation, you can post in the chat whether or not you think it is unsafe for her to use ChatGPT in her context, or whether or not you believe it's possible for her to use ChatGPT. If you can post those responses in the chat, it will be really, really great. And remember, it's just a reflection of how you've gone through the table. There's no 100% right and 100% wrong answer. Okay. Then moving on, right? So we see that when it comes to our AI-generated content, we know that the AI-generated content, it can be convincing, but again, like I said, you must evaluate its credibility, the source of the data, the cross-referencing, the bias awareness, and the AI hallucinations. And we're going to go into it a little bit. So the source of the data. you need to understand where does it come from. So when you're going to be diving into your studies, you're going to see that all the information that you do get from a different source, you've got to say where that source comes from. Sometimes we find it one of the biggest headaches to provide those references, in-text, and then your in-text references, and it's a real headache, but it really serves a core purpose of ensuring that misinformation isn't spread in scientific mediums or journals. So in that situation, you need to ask yourself, where does it come from, right? And you also need to ask yourself, is this a reputable source? Even when you go further into your studies, you'll see there's differences between journals. There's some journals that's considered reputable and reliable sources, where there's other journals that's considered to be unreliable and predatory source of journals. And in that situation, you want to avoid those journals, because referencing them in your paper again is going to reflect negatively on you and the information that you then generate. You also want to look at peer-reviewed journals. You want to look at government health and guidelines. You want to look at sources that really have been verified, not just something that you find on the web that has maybe just one author, but you can't really trace even the information that's inside that document. Try to understand where AI got that data from and where it sourced that data from, and then look at that source as well and evaluate, is it credible? So you can see, as much as AI saves us a lot of time, it doesn't mean that we don't have any responsibilities when we're using it. We actually do. It's almost like we become investigators in the situation. Cross-referencing. When it comes to cross-referencing, you have to identify if the content is trustworthy. So it's not just enough to say this is a good source. You've got to say, are there other sources that's providing the same information? Are there other sources that's providing contradictory information? And then you've got to see what is the main idea, or what is the main supported idea behind that. You might find one source that says something that's completely outrageous and isn't in line with historical textbooks or academic sources. In that situation, do more research and see why there's not a lot of support for it. It might indicate that it's not a trustworthy source. It might indicate there's a gap in the literature, but you need to be sure, you need to verify it on your own. And you need to also, if you know individuals that are well-versed, seek their assistance as well. Your professors, your educators, get their input as well on how to cross-reference information. Next, beware of potential biases in AI-generated content. So at the beginning of, not at the beginning, but when we saw artificial intelligence gaining a lot of popularity, we also saw something else. It was really biased, because remember, like Richard touched on in the beginning, AI is trained on data, right? And when the data only comes from one specific source, then it's going to learn that information from that specific source, and it's going to only be able to give output from that specific source in a lot of situations, not all. For example, we have AI that's just, how can I say, it's just centralized in a specific region of the world. So for example, if you have AI generated content, for example, in China, it could be in Russia, it could be in the United States, it might be veering to one end. It might be a little bit biased, where it's just representing one perspective. And that is where it comes into play. If you see that potential bias, sometimes you can prompt it for the opposite information, and you can now balance the scales. And we also know that, for example, in Africa, we also have a lack of representation of AI data, or that the AI models that are being trained, there's a lack of the data that they're being trained. The situation is rapidly improving, like Richard showed earlier on. But in that situation, you might see, when you are using artificial intelligence, it's still showing a bias, or it's not really reflective of reality of other regions in the world. For example, in South Africa, when you see this, it's an opportunity for you to kind of again go cross-reference, make a note of it, and you'll actually learn a lot about artificial intelligence in that way as well. Lastly, we have AI hallucinations. So when we think of AI hallucinations, you can even think of somebody that's having hallucinations. If someone's having a hallucination, they're going to be super confident about what they actually saw, but we know it's not really there. We know that it might be completely incorrect. It might make no sense at all to the individual that's listening to it. So it's exactly like a hallucination. And in that situation, artificial intelligence might give you a hallucination. So instead of saying, I don't have that information, or instead of sourcing the correct information, it might just engage in an hallucination. And in that situation, you will be in a very, very bad situation if you've just taken that hallucination and used it, as opposed to identifying what is the actual reality behind it. So again, verify that information. Find out what's the sources, ensure it's valid. You've got to do all that research behind it. Okay, I think that is all from me. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand back to Richard. And yes, thank you so much. I think Richard will dive into the interpreting and the evaluating of AI-generated data.
Thank you, Nafma. So yes, students, especially with the hallucinations, AI has the capabilities of making up its own history, and it will argue with you that this is correct, that the information it gives is correct. That's how, you know, it will convince you almost that what it's saying is giving you the correct information while everything is completely fake. But for the next section, I'm going to hand over to David, as we will continue tomorrow with just the final part of this topic, and then continue with the prompt engineering. Thank you, David.
All right, thanks, Richard, and thanks, Nafma. That was very interesting. I love the chat. It was really vibrant, guys. So as Richard is saying, so tomorrow we are going to continue with the last part of Unit 1, which is going to sort of cover the context in which you need to understand how to get the AI to give you the right context based on your query. So how do we do that? I'm sure you might have heard it called prompt engineering, such a big word. But really, what is it doing? You are actually training yourself how to put in phrases or text that will give you the answer and narrow down the answer to your specific context that you're looking for. So please do come back tomorrow so that you can avoid these problems of hallucinations with AI. Yes, it is. It will do it. I've tested it out. I found it myself. A simple question I asked AI was, how many students do we have at UNISA and how many of them have got laptops? It said we had 400,000 students and 95% of them all had laptops. Now, wow, really, I wish that was true, but no. So clearly it can hallucinate, guys. So tomorrow is very, very important. So if you want to start homing in the skills of prompting, Richard is going to take you through the whole process of how to actually narrow down your prompt to get to a specific answer. But remember, guys, you need to verify AI's answers. It is going to make up some answers as well. So tomorrow, guys, we are going to have a little bit of a recap. So just take note of that, but it will continue from here where we've stopped this evening, and then we will continue with the prompting and writing effective AI prompts. So that's critical skills that you do need. And then, of course, we will share with you the post-course and course evaluation, which are also very critical for us. And this gives you the opportunity to say, these are the things you like, these are the things you would love to learn more about. And judging by what I'm seeing in the chat, you guys definitely have lots of questions that you want answers to. So that's an opportunity, guys, to post it in our chat. So definitely come back tomorrow, same time. I'm just going to do the closing, so I'd just like to say thank you to Dr. Chetty, who did the opening for us today. We know it's 5:30 to 7, guys. We're keeping the sessions not too long because we do understand work and life and data all sort of mixed together. So, but thank you so much for coming out, you the students. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Big emoji of love or clapping hands if you want. You can post it up there just to show us how much you're appreciating this, but we do appreciate you guys being here. Also, Richard, going through all the materials with you. Just remember, guys, some of you felt a little bit lost or confused. just remember we do share the course link where you can work through all the materials nice and slowly, and that way you'll build confidence and knowledge about the topic. Okay, so that's also quite important. So it's okay if you're not feeling it. Thank you for being brave and saying you're a little bit lost. It is something new. It is a new field that we're all jumping into. So it's okay to not understand everything straight off the bat. So do go through the course. It'll definitely help you, and we will guide you, and you'll do some fun examples and exercises and activities that really will actually help you understand how it all works. Also, thank you to Nathma with your presentation. Definitely very important. I loved also the interaction that I saw where students were saying if the student was wrong or right. Very interesting. And I see most of the people are actually going for the positive side of things. So that was also very much appreciated. And from myself, David Hopstadt, guys, enjoy yourself. Be safe out there. Go and study hard. Exams are coming up soon. Next month, April already. But yes, we'll definitely see you guys tomorrow. And of course, please do check out the link for all the other courses that we're offering online. And when we come to visit your region, please do come say hi to us and get to meet us in person. All the best and have a lovely evening further. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.